Good day, fellow champions of inclusion. I am AA Ron, and this is the Inclusive Dad Podcast, where we explore inclusion and make it practical. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me in exploring ways we can create a more inclusive world together. You are important, you matter, and you can make a difference. Today, my guest is Jack Kammer. Welcome to the show.
All right. Well, turnabout is fair play. Nice to be here, Aaron.
Awesome, yeah. Why don't you just start off by just telling me a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, I am an advocate around the social issues of men and boys. I am a retired social worker. I left my job as an IT person at the age of 54 to go back to school full time to get a master's in social work. The reason for that is that I was just very convinced that a lot of social issues are connected to the ideas we have about men and boys and what our place in society ought to be. And what caught my eye about your show was, well, of course, the word dad, the inclusive dad. One of the main points that I like to make is that dads are hugely important, and dads are often not regarded as important as they really are, sort of the way women in business are important and make valuable contributions. Even though historically their contributions were undervalued and severely doubted and made lesser than the contributions of men in business. And similarly, I think that men in families, men in parenting roles, men in any kind of nurturing role are regarded as sort of secondary to mothers. And, again, that's a huge waste of talent because you very clearly and very manifestly have a lot of nurturing capabilities. And I believe that the child you have who is a special needs child is a daughter, right?
Yes. Yep. Her
Yeah,
name's her name's Cecilia, and she's 22.
she's 22.
Yep.
So I thought it would be interesting to ask you to talk a little bit about your experiences as a man. And I can imagine that your experience as a very nurturing man could have gone in two directions. And maybe you've seen both directions,
Hmm.
sometimes one way, sometimes the other way. But I would imagine that some people look at you a little bit askance, like, what does he know about taking care of a special needs child? He's a man.
Hmm.
Men are clueless, you know? And
Right.
then on the other hand, you might also get from time to time the opposite reaction of, oh my God, what a great
Hmm.
nurturing man this fellow is. All of the obstacles that our society places in the way of male nurturance and men being uh, encouraged to be nurturing. And even despite those obstacles, here's Aaron doing a fabulous job. So I'm just curious, how has that played out for you?
That's a great point. So, a couple things that come to mind is I'm obviously heavily involved in like my daughter's life and the advocacy piece of it, like the social justice. So part of the story was how I got the inclusive dad piece is she was because of her level of need, all the stuff she needs, she was sent to like a segregated classroom across town. Um, so not to her neighborhood school a block away that her brother walked to. She was sent by bus across town. I visited there like at lunchtime early on, and there was kids in the room like folding towels already, and we're talking like kindergarten, first grade, and I was like, why are we already folding towels? Why are we not having them in reading and math class? So it kind of went down the inclusion path, did a lot of research, been to a lot of meetings, a lot of seminars, and this isn't going to surprise you based on what you just were talking about. Is just I often I mean, if there are other males in the room at those meetings, it's almost surprising. It's just almost all females. So it's been constantly for me once I started getting into the advocacy piece. It's just that's I mean everywhere anything I go to, it's I'm like I said. Besides, I mean, if I go to a school thing, school staff, there might be some male teachers there, but otherwise, going to stuff or like some male social workers, but it's very few males at all in any of the meetings. So there's, I mean, I don't know if I ever got the um, he's a dad, he's male. How can he know anything? I don't I mean nobody ever said that to my face. I mean, when you said it, I'm like, there's probably some of that like not being spoken to me. The other part though that came to mind when you were talking is like there's been a lot of stuff like, oh, it's so nice you take your daughter out and it's so nice you guys do this. I'm like, I mean, I'm her dad. Like, I take my son out. Like, why is it special that I take her out? So there was some of that, some of those things that also happened. So yeah, it's been interesting um, how I have more of the have a lot of the nurturing sides when I don't. It's just it's weird to me that other dads or males don't do it, but I guess maybe it shouldn't be because of the world we live in or the messages we're taught as a child. But for something in my upbringing or in my life kind of made me go down the other path. So
Were you a very nurturing boy? Did you like to be around babies, for instance?
hmm. Well, I mean, I'm the oldest in my immediate family. Then I have a sister 2 years younger and a brother 2 years younger than that. And I don't. I'm trying to think. I don't recall like spending a lot of time around babies or who else who would have been around. Um, I mean, I grew up in a small town, southern Minnesota. We didn't go to. I mean, we didn't have a lot of friends, but the friends and people we hung out with were at church. So we went to a Baptist church every time the doors were open when I was a kid through, till I moved out of the house. So we spent a lot of time like in church and around other people at church. So I mean, might have spent time with babies there, but I mean, I don't recall like seeking that out or wanting to do that over other things. I mean, I was never in. I played like little league when I was growing up a little bit. I tried football for like a week, didn't like that, so I was never into any of those type of things. But just a lot of, um, I did a lot of playing outside in the woods, like building forts and exploring. Did a lot of like shooting basketball by myself on the garage. That's the stuff I can remember. A lot outside, a lot of physical different things. So
Yeah. Can I tell you a story about
sure,
my upbringing and
yeah.
it's connected to why I'm interested in what I'm interested in, the social issues of men and boys, especially the capacity that men and boys have that's very much wasted often, which is, the capacity to be nurturing,
Hmm.
loving, important people in the lives of children to help them grow up strong, healthy, and happy. So, first, I want to, before I tell you about my my history, the thing that I want to tell you happened in my life when I was a boy. I want to tell you about, or just mention to you, just to sort of put into context, what we know often happens to girls in sort of a mirror image of what I experienced. So we know as sort of smart people who pay attention to what's going on in the world and we care about the world, you and I and a lot of other people know that if you see a little girl who's really good at math, it's not a good idea to say to that little girl, gee, Susie, you're really good at math, dot, 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 for a girl.
Mm.
And if she's really good at sports, you don't say you're really good at sports for a girl. Or if
Right.
she's good at science, you're really good at science for a girl.
Hmm.
It's sort of it's intended maybe to be a compliment, but it really just isn't. It's
Hmm.
sort of what it really does, rather than say congratulations, kid. What it sort of does is plants this idea that what are you doing here? what are you
Right.
doing here? What is that's that's rather odd for a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Are you odd? Is there something wrong with you?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so now we have that context. Let me tell you what happened to me a lot. When I was a kid, what I used to hear was, "Gee, Jack, you're really good with babies." Dot 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 for a boy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And and I remember thinking, there was this would have been in like 1959, early
Mm-hmm.
60s maybe. I was born in 51. Um, I didn't have any words for what I was feeling. Uh, I don't even think the word sexism
Right.
had been invented yet, as far as I know. And if it was, I had never heard it probably. And so didn't really know how to process this thing that I heard or how it made me feel. And I couldn't have explained how it made me feel anyhow. But I did know I didn't like the feeling. And it wasn't until years and years later that I, heard about this idea of sexism and thinking, you know, boys should do one thing and not do other things, and girls, the same way. So I could make babies stop crying even when their parents couldn't. I mean, I just love them. They're fun,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have any kids myself. I do not have any kids myself. I missed that boat,
Right.
uh, in large part because I didn't like the role that fatherhood was established to be back when I was in my
Right.
prime dating ages. I didn't want to be married and have to get up in the morning and drive away from the house and the family and get on a train and be away from my kids the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really found the fatherhood role available to me in a way that I wanted it. So anyhow, that's um, that's why I'm interested in you as a way, 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 really, 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 really nurturing dad when you probably could easily make a bazillion excuses for why the special care of your daughter really wasn't up to you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can recall early on. I mean, she was diagnosed with epilepsy at like 3 months old, and I mean, I don't remember exactly when this realization came to me, but I realized pretty early on, like the whatever things were put into my head growing up, the roles for like males and dads, like working and making money and working, working, working. I'm like, that's not what I'm gonna do because it's. I mean, she could have a seizure. She's had multiple 90-minute grand mal seizures, life flighted a couple of times, and I'm like, I can't. I could never live. I couldn't live with myself by working all the time, never being home, not spending time with her, and then she has a seizure and she, passes away. So I consciously made that decision early on, which obviously I feel was the correct decision, but still there's those things in the back of your head, like I mean, it comes up once in a while. You should be working more. You should, this, and so I still have to, they'll still come up, but it's definitely the right decision. But yeah, it's interesting how all those messages are put into our heads, either directly or indirectly, and they come back to make you think certain ways for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to ask you a personal question. Tell
Go
me to
for
jump in the lake or the pond, uh, um, if you don't want to answer it, or if it's
Yeah.
none of my damn business. But are you still with the mother of your daughter?
We are not together. No. No.
Is she as involved in the care of your daughter as you are?
My daughter lives with her mom full time and comes over here a couple times a week is the current setup we have. So I kind of have her over here for respite. So I'm not with her day to day, but we still talk pretty frequently on the phone or video chat and stuff, and still attend doctor appointments and those kind of things. But it's definitely been a little different since we're not together, but still pretty heavily involved for a child that's 22 for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So you and your ex are doing the shared parenting thing in like the best possible way.
Yep, as good as we can. Yeah. Yep,
Yeah,
for
you
sure.
keeping the focus on the kid,
Yep.
not on your own
Yep.
feelings and your own relationship.
Yes, for
Well,
sure.
good, good for you. Um, I'd be interested in hearing a little more about the pressure you have felt about focusing more on money and less on your daughter.
Yeah, I mean it's. Yeah, I mean it's not like I said. I don't. It hasn't been like people saying that. It's just I feel like there's still like this. Maybe if you're sitting. I mean, if you're not working all the time, like you're doing something wrong. There's that part. Just like if I'm sitting around, I feel like I need to be busy doing something, and I don't know if that's connected to that part, but just the whole. And also like I said about some other things is I don't people have never said to me like you mean you're a dad, you're a man, you should be working more. It's got to be some kind of a subconscious thing that I mean I like I said I grew up Baptist. So, I mean that was all the man's the head of the house, the man makes the money, the woman listens to the man, kind of that kind of thing. So I mean, I mean, I was taught those things for 15, 18 years. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff that came from that probably as well. Just feeling like I need to be the one providing, which I mean, I was when we were when I was married. I mean, I was the one working. She stayed home with the kids, which I'm thankful for. So there was that role I had at that time. So I mean, it's kind of how it went. But yeah, it's like I said, nobody's ever told me that I can remember like straight up like you should be working more. It's just more things I was thinking internally.
Yes, I understand that pretty completely because I've heard it a lot over the years. Um, can I mention one way I uh, can try to explain that
Sure.
feeling that you get?
Yeah.
So again, we're going to look at the mirror image of what happens to men. And the reason we have to talk about the mirror image first is because as a society, we don't really think much about what happens to men. You know, we have this idea that it's a man's world and men have all the power and men don't have any problems, they don't have any issues. So what we talk about in terms of gender issues is primarily about what happens to women by virtue of sexism and gender stereotypes. So imagine that you and your wife are still married, and you and your wife are at home on a Saturday, and imagine that the doorbell rings, and it's your parents who have decided to just pop over unannounced for a visit. Well, you open the door, and then you realize, oh my God, the house looks a mess. The house looks a mess.
Yeah.
Who's going to be more embarrassed about that? Your wife or you?
I mean, generally, I feel like the answer would be the wife. However, in my situation, I grew up in a house where my dad like did a lot of stuff around the house too. So I feel like for me, I don't know if I'd be more, but it would probably be more level than most situations. I would say.
Yeah. So aside from that exception, you know, you could sort of feel how, the woman
Right.
has has the expectation placed upon her that she's going to keep the house nice. And if it's not nice, if it's not clean and tidy,
Right.
she's a failure in some way.
Right.
And men always sort of have to live with this feeling of, oh my God, if something terrible happens and we need a whole bunch of money all of a sudden
Hmm.
and we don't have it, that's on me
Right.
as the man, because I'm the one who's supposed to be a provider.
Yep.
So, the fact that you were able to overcome and resist that feeling, that the most important thing for you, Mr.
Hmm.
Aaron, is to make money, and this whole idea of taking care of your daughter is sort of really not for you.
Hmm.
That you overcame that and made the right decision really speaks volumes about what a stand-up guy you are.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know you want me to answer the question, what does inclusion mean to me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Um, that's sort of a hard question for me. And maybe you can sort of guide me through it. I do want to understand the context of the word inclusive in the title of your podcast. You it's about you being an inclusive dad, or you being an advocacy for inclusive. How did you come up with that title?
I guess it's more about. It's a good question. I mean, I guess like I said, talked about the experience I had when my daughter was in that segregated setting. So what after that, what happened is we tried to get her more into the general education, be more inclusive, and it's just been all trying to be have her included with her peers since then. So I think it's partially, um, I mean, it's partially me being an inclusive dad, and partially honestly advocating for more inclusion. Just for me, just because she checks this box or these boxes shouldn't mean she's can't go to the general education classes or can't go to different things based on her being in a wheelchair and stuff. So just it's kind of both actually, I guess.
Okay. So so I will venture my idea of what inclusion means to me.
Yeah,
Um, I also want to talk about sort of the mirror image of it again,
sure.
of what exclusion means to me. And the word inclusion makes me think of open. In and open sort of go together, and exclusion is closed and out. And so and people who value inclusion are sensitive to the fact of how it can hurt people to be shut out
Mhm.
behind a closed door, excluded. And by the same token, people can feel good and human and loved and appreciated and part of the human family and part of this part of the society, the community, by being welcomed in through the closed door.
Right.
The door is opened by inclusion.
Right.
And so I have to wonder, why does exclusion happen so much? And I wonder if, in the case of you going to the school and seeing your daughter folding towels, I take it that this was in preparation for some job that she might be able to have after
Yeah.
after.
Yeah, I mean, often like in the for people with disabilities, there's I don't there's a word for it, but the roles or the jobs they generally want them working towards are like manual labor, like cleaning, laundry, those types of things. So, like it's called like a life skill, they say. It's just that in my mind, it was like that stuff we can teach her at home. She's at school. Why is she not doing the same, being exposed to the same things that the other kids are in school? I mean, everybody else in first grade isn't folding towels, so why is it different?
Yeah. And so why is it different? Why do you think that they exclude your daughter from the mainstream classes and put her in this other class?
I mean, I guess to me, it's just like another word slipping my mind, but for some reason, like they've already decided that she's not going to be able to do like whatever she wants to do. They're already putting her like in the silo, like she's not going to be able to. I mean, she can't go to space probably because there's certain rules or whatever. But I mean, why is she already being told that I can't do what I want to do, or at least try to do what I want to be when I grow up? I mean, that's more of a just like where they're deciding for her like what the trajectory of her life is, and in that situation, being in special ed, having those labels, once you have those labels, I've seen it's just hard to like get people to change them or not view them in a certain way. Because if she's labeled this, then people have experience with kids with that label, and then they just kind of view them the same and don't, give them a chance, I guess.
Has your daughter said what she would like to be?
She likes like computer stuff, so she talks about just doing some kind of something on the computer or doing things with computers. So we're trying to figure that out. But again, like the services that are available for like job coaching and stuff, it's more tailored to, again, they call them day programs, and they're sitting there, packaging up stuff or cleaning or doing these manual labor tasks. There's not as much support around for just, hey, I want to do this. Okay, we'll try to help you figure out how we can do that and support you the best we can. So
Does the state of Minnesota or does the school district make money from companies whose stuff the kids are packing up?
yes. Well, and that's the other thing is it is legal to pay people with certain level of disabilities like pennies to do things. I mean, there's something in the labor law. I don't remember what it's called, but they are able to pay them sub minimum wage for, yeah, packaging, doing things, and then I'm not sure if the companies actually get like tax breaks. They might, but they also are getting labor for pennies on the dollar for what they would have to pay you or I to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
And for the state or for the county school district, whatever the arrangement is in your location, for the educational authorities to be able to provide your daughter with the optimal services she needs would be hugely expensive. Is that basically what the situation is?
I mean, it definitely costs more than, like me going to school, because I could be in a class with the teacher and all the other kids and not require additional assistance. For her, she always had a paraprofessional with her, so that's an extra staff the school is paying for. I mean, the special education funding, well, before all the crazy stuff that's happening now, I mean, the federal government never has paid as much as they promised, and that was even not a lot. So a lot of the burden of the covering the cost is on the local district or the state to cover it. Which I mean, there's a lot of issues in my mind with the education. Like some of it shouldn't be super expensive. I mean, she's had um what got like an adaptive bike at one point, like a tricycle, and just because it's something being paid for like by Medicaid, I mean they charge like $3,000 for this bike when it looks like you could buy it at Walmart for like 200. So I mean there's something in the system where we attach this label to it of it's for somebody in with these needs, and now all of a sudden it costs 10 times what it costs you or I to go to Walmart to buy pretty much the same bike. So there's definitely some weird things in the system also.
Yeah. Follow the money, they said, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Are there any states that you know of that do an especially good job for kids in this situation?
Well, I mean, honestly, Minnesota is probably. I mean, I don't know where it ranks, but it's in the top. It's in the top half for sure. I mean, I'm not sure above there. I mean, Minnesota overall is a very, I mean, progressive as far as for people with disabilities. She's been able to live at home with us her whole life. I mean, I was born in '77, and back in that time, she would not be living at home. So, been very thankful for that ability. It's just a lot about the inclusion piece for the school. It so much depends on the administration of the district. Like if they're very pro inclusion, wanting kids with disabilities in with general education, it's way easier. Like in our situation, our view on what inclusion meant versus what the district thought it thinks it means is two different things, and trying to like get them to change their mind is nearly impossible. And we're in the position to move to a different place, so it's very in our what I've come across, and when I'm helping families with some special education stuff, it's so much of it depends on the attitude of the district that you're living in. And I mean, let's just say that our district is very pro inclusion, and then new superintendent comes in and has different priorities and different ways they want to do things. Now it could change when that happens, so it's very dependent on the attitude of the district.
Got it.
What?
Got it. What does your daughter say about having to fold towels?
Um, I mean, so I didn't actually see her folding towels. There was kids in the room folding towels, and I mean, I honestly don't know. So she never said anything to me about it. That was just more like, why are they doing it? So we just kind of said she doesn't need to be folding towels at school because she can do that at home and push for the other piece. So that's kind of where it was at. I mean, she does once in a while. She'll like to fold towels. She also has cerebral palsy, so her left side is affected, so she's not able to use her hands and arms like you and I are. So folding towels is not easy for her. So she's probably never going to do that full time anyway because she just can't. Doesn't have the fine motor to be able to do it anyway. But it just for me, it got down a path of like, why based on somebody's ability are they put into the silo. Another story, I got lots of stories, but another story that came up in her education was they built a brand new school for fifth and sixth graders. Found out they had a door labeled on the blueprint special education entrance, and I was like, why is there a door for special ed kids to go in? We're talking. My daughter was born in 2002. Yeah, 2002. I mean, so this is not that long ago, and we still have this door. So I found the emails again where I had to argue with the principal for her to go in the door with everybody else. I'm like, at Walmart they don't have two doors. Why do you have two doors at school? So she ended up going in the regular door, but just even in her lifetime, there's been these weird things just that come up, and I was like, if that was an African American door, you guys would be shut down. So why is it okay that you have a door for kids with disabilities to go in differently? So,
Did the principal explain the thinking for
um,
why that door was established?
their thinking was, or her thinking was, it would be safer because there's not as many kids going through it. But for me as a parent, like I said, I mean, if I go to Walmart, I mean, any place else there isn't a separate door. So let's teach her how to like safely navigate that system. That how that is there, where you have people around her maybe helping her. So when she's out in the community, she can navigate it herself. Possibly, it's just yeah. It's I mean that sometimes happens too, where people have, I mean, quote unquote, good intentions about something. It's just, I'm not sure how it comes up for sure, but that was the reason.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Did I fulfill my duty of trying to explain what
Yeah.
inclusion means to
Yeah,
me?
you did. Yeah, you did for sure.
Okay, good.
Another question I always ask all my guests is, what is one tip you can share to help the listeners be more inclusive today? So just something that you and I could start doing today to be more inclusive.
So yeah, I thought about that question too because you
Okay.
gave me a heads up that you were going to put me on the spot there.
Yeah.
Um, I think probably it would be worth asking ourselves when we are tempted to be exclusionary to ask ourselves, what are we afraid of? What are we afraid of? I mean, whether it's excluding a person whose opinion you
Right.
don't want to hear, or excluding a student who might need a little extra help, maybe even a lot of extra
Yeah.
help. What what are we afraid of? That we're going to fail? That just to at least ask ourselves the question,
Right.
because often we all know that there are many things that we're able to do, and we're glad that we do, and we're glad that we stopped not doing them that we originally didn't want to
Right.
do.
Yeah.
Just when I was a kid, I didn't like tomatoes. Why? I had never eaten one.
Right.
I excluded
Yeah.
them for what reason?
Right.
I don't even know. But no, I love tomatoes. So yeah, that's what I would suggest. Just
Yeah.
do a check in. What are you afraid of? What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Where's the best place everybody can connect with you?
My website is the best place. It's called malefriendlymedia.com. all one word, no hyphens, MALE for mail, not
Hmm.
the Postal Service. Um, Mailfriendlymedia.com. I have a contact
Sure.
menu item there and a follow menu item there. If anybody would like to click that follow button and give me your email address, I'll let you know what I'm doing and what I'm up to
Yeah,
if you're interested.
that's awesome. Are you ready for the last question?
I don't remember there being a third question. Did you tell me about a third question?
No, it's top secret. I don't tell anybody.
So it's a pop quiz.
Pop quiz. You ready?
Oh my God. Okay.
Do you like spam lunch meat? Yes or no?
Oh, this is so funny. This is so funny, Aaron. You know why?
No.
I exclude it even though I've never tried it.
Really?
I
Oh
don't think I've ever
man,
tried it. I don't think I've
never
ever
tried it.
tried it. No, I don't think so. I know
It
it gets a really bad rap, and it's pretty good stuff, really, because it's just pork, shoulder, and ham, right?
Yeah, and some other yeah. That's the main stuff for sure. But yeah, the reason I asked that is I live in Austin, Minnesota, where they make spam and where the spam museum is located. So I ask all my guests just kind of a fun thing just to see.
All right, very good. Well, so I don't like that kind of spam or the kind that comes through
Yeah.
my email. I am definitely hard sent radical anti-spammer, but without any good reason for why I
Yeah.
don't like the stuff in the cast.
Yeah, the Spam Museum actually is pretty cool. So if you ever make it to Minnesota, southern Minnesota, you should stop in. Last year, 100,000 people went through there, and there's only
Wow.
25,000 in the town. So it's a lot of
Oh my God.
outside folks coming through
That
to
is so
do it.
funny. So, would I be right to imagine that the people who run the museum, the curators, the people who create the exhibits, that it's all sort of tongue in cheek and it's just for the irony?
I mean, some of it is. It's yeah. I mean, they have. If you go there, there's somebody walking around with a tray with spamples on it. So there's a lot of like funny, humory. It's like just a little chunk of spam with a pretzel stuck in it that you can try and different things. Yeah. But I mean,
Okay.
it's a cool museum. I've been there a couple of times. It's a lot of history stuff about Hormel, about spam, and different hands-on activities for the kids, and a gift
All
shop. You
right.
can buy like spam, a lot of different things that you can like socks, shirts, stickers, all that fun stuff. So
All right. Well, I don't know if I should thank you for that or not, but now I have a new item on my bucket list.
there you go. There you go. That's awesome. Well,
All
thank you
right.
so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Aaron. I really appreciate it. It was fun. It was good
Yeah.
to talk with you.
To those listening, thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey. It is truly an honor. Please join the podcast newsletter by clicking on the link in the episode description to keep up with the latest episodes. Together, we can make the world more inclusive. Until next time, stay empowered and be a champion for inclusion.